Evening was falling. The golden light of the setting sun spread across the courtyard, and silence lay heavy in the air. The rustling of leaves in the trees sounded almost like whispers, as if nature itself knew a secret. But behind this calm, a storm was waiting to break. The son slowly stepped into the courtyard. In his hands he carried a heavy bucket filled with water. His arms trembled with its weight, but his face was stern and his eyes burned with determination. This was the moment he had been waiting for. In his heart only one thought echoed: this lie cannot be hidden any longer. His stepmother was standing there. On her face sat a false smile, an act of innocence that masked the truth. She wanted everyone to believe everything was fine, but for the son, the curtain of deceit had already been torn. He strode forward quickly and suddenly poured the entire bucket of water over her head. The splash echoed through the courtyard. Cold water streamed down her hair, face, and clothes. Her garments clung to her body, and she stood frozen in shock. She looked at the son with wide, trembling eyes, as if asking why. The son gave no reply. His heart was burning with anger and pain. He untied the cloth from his stomach, the very piece of cloth that was proof of his stepmother's lies. This was the same fabric she had bound around her belly to pretend she was pregnant. He held it up, then without a word leapt into the pool of water. The loud splash filled the air, shaking the silence around them. The stepmother's face drained of color. When she saw the cloth in his hand, the very thing that could expose her, her heart raced wildly. Her breaths grew shallow, her fear rising with every second. The son began shouting, "Father, wake up! Look, mother is in the water. She will drown." But the father was asleep inside the room. The boy's cries echoed against the courtyard walls but did not reach his ears. The stepmother's cunning mind stirred in panic. She realized that if she didn't act, her game would end here. In one swift motion, she too jumped into the water. Her body shivered as the cold struck her, but her face wore the look of a woman in danger, as if she truly were drowning. Again the boy screamed, "Father, look, she's drowning." This time the father awoke. He rushed out of his room, heart pounding, and hurried into the courtyard. What he saw shocked him, his wife struggling in the water. Without a second thought, he jumped in to rescue her. The wife seized the moment. As soon as her husband was distracted in the water, she secretly slipped out and ran toward the door, trying to escape the exposure. But the boy's sharp eyes caught her. "Why are you deceiving my father? Why are you lying?" he shouted, voice trembling with fury. For a moment, fear flickered in her eyes. Then suddenly she lunged forward, snatched the cloth from his hands, and quickly tied it around her stomach once more. Her face was hard, defiant, as if saying, "No one will expose me." The father, dripping wet and panting, came out of the water. He ignored his son's protests and held his wife's hand. "Come inside. Are you all right?" he asked her gently. The son stood in disbelief. He tried again to speak, but the father refused to listen. Taking his wife with him, the father walked back to their room. The boy's heart blazed with helpless rage. He knew if he stayed silent, this woman would win forever. He climbed to the upper floor, his mind racing. It was time to reveal the truth once and for all. He came back down, strode toward his stepmother, and with one sudden move ripped the cloth from her belly. She gasped, but the boy immediately pulled out his phone and began recording. "Father, look, she is not pregnant. She has been lying to all of us." The father stared at the video. His face turned pale, his eyes filled with shock and sorrow. It was as if the ground had slipped from beneath him. His wife saw his reaction and bolted. She ran inside, slammed the door shut, and disappeared. Inside the room, she burst into laughter. "I fooled my husband completely. He will never know the truth," she muttered with wicked joy. She tossed clothes from the bed, dancing almost in triumph, and then walked into the bathroom. But she did not know the son was hiding under the bed. As soon as she entered the bathroom, he quietly emerged. From his pocket, he took out a powder that caused skin allergies. Carefully, he sprinkled it over her clothes, then slipped silently out of the room. Moments later, the woman came out, humming to herself. She picked up the very clothes, tied them tightly around her belly, and prepared to leave. Once again, she was ready to fool everyone with her false pregnancy. The family was getting ready to go out, but suddenly, the woman's face twisted in pain. She clutched her stomach and groaned. The husband rushed over. "What's wrong? Are you all right?" I'm itching. My skin burns. I can't bear it," she gasped. She hurriedly tore the cloth from her belly and threw it aside. The husband bent down, picked up the cloth, and stared at it. Realization struck him like a knife to the heart. He turned toward her, eyes blazing. "You lied to me. You told me you were carrying my child. Why? Why did you break my trust?" The woman writhed in pain, her skin red and inflamed from the powder. She had no answer. Her falsehood had collapsed in front of everyone. The husband's anger overflowed. "I cannot live with you any longer. You've destroyed everything." He shoved her aside and slammed the door shut. The wife screamed and cried outside, pounding on the door. Her voice echoed, but the husband refused to listen. He turned instead to his son. Tears welled in his eyes as he embraced him. "My son, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have remained blind forever." The boy too cried, but there was peace in his heart. The truth had triumphed. His stepmother's web of lies had finally been torn apart. Outside, the woman screamed and begged, her voice full of desperation. But inside, father and son held one another tightly. After years of deceit and distance, truth and trust had finally bound them together again. Friends, if you like the story, please share it and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you more powerful stories like this.